It's the Cardiff City phone-in. And, well, we had some eggs at Easter. That was quite nice. Right, so on the panel tonight, we got Gary, we got Mark, and we got Wiggy. I think let's just shoot from the hip, I suppose, to kick off tonight. Thanks for coming on a bank holiday, by the way. Doesn't make any difference to me now, being a retired guy. Just cut the grass now and again, but for you guys, it's thank you. Gary, as a long-time City fan, I think you described it really well, actually, when we were chatting just now. You said death by 1,000 cuts. That's how it feels to you, Gary, yeah?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. As I said off air, Steve, it's been a long time coming. It hasn't been the last 2 or 3 games. As I said, I doubted our ability to stay up after the Luton game and then the Stoke game, and we've had so many must-win games which we didn't win. And then today was another one, really. We were the better side. They were pretty poor. They scored a one worldie, didn't they? And that was their only shot on target, wasn't it? But that just sums up our whole season, doesn't it? Can't see out the game. Probably haven't got the quality. I thought when he made all those changes, Caldwell came on. I thought he was pretty poor. Alves, he hasn't convinced me. He's a bit lightweight. I said that before. I think he's, he didn't, and then obviously Matey came on. Salek was the only one who probably was going to score, and Tanner was awful as well. So, when he made the 4 changes, which inevitably came, I think it made things worse, really. And then they had just equalised, and then you're thinking, well, who's going to score us a winning goal? And it's been a long time coming, Steve. I really doubted our ability to stay up 6 or 7 games ago, to be fair. And I think this change had been made far too late. Risa should have he could have gone at any time over the last, I think he could have gone 6 or 7 games, or even before that. It was awful. And I think, unfortunately, it's come to this, and I think, it's inevitable conclusion, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we're not officially down yet, I think we all feel like we're down, but and
I think
looking pretty well nailed on.
The way the results went today, though, I mean,
every other game went against us.
Some remarkable results. I mean, West Brom losing. Derby was the big one. I thought we got to win today to jump above Derby, or we'll lose, and they didn't. And they all seemed to win today, and we. I think. Like I said, it's almost a painful death. I mean, the sooner it's over, the better. Really, I don't know.
Well, Jeff Delacruz. Jeff Delacruz, who is Mr. Positive, he's not very well. I hope we feel him a bit better, Jeff. I'm sorry, City didn't quite give you the tonic you were looking for. But 2 wins, 2 wins. He's saying we could still do it, and the apocryphal fat lady still hasn't sung. Steve Wiggins, what's your thoughts on things?
I think you could tell we're a bit deflated. Jeff, I love your optimism. Fair play, Jeff. But I honestly can't see where we're going to even get a goal, let a win. We just lacked creativity today, didn't we? It was like we were a little better, and this is nothing. Take away nothing from the management, because I mean Ramsey, and credit to him for taking it on, because he's had the players 24 hours maybe, so there wasn't much of a change today, to be honest. I was expecting a bit of a better press, which I don't think we got, but it was a bit of a stroll in the sunshine, I thought. Again, we're still not getting behind defenses to the byline to get balls in the box. We just struggle to get behind defenses, as we've been saying for months, Steve. And
week after week after week after week.
Yeah. And as we said before we came on air, Steve, you could trace it all the way back, and probably the catalyst to it all was Boxing Day at Oxford United at their ground.
The scoreline battered us in the end, actually.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Where we wanted a bit of a display that day, and it was the world's worst, wasn't it? And I think that was the time that we should have said, right, okay, let's get a decent manager in. But that's down to the guys above, as we all know. And we're going out with a bit of a limp, aren't we? But there we go.
Well, we look like we are. I mean, Jeff is still correct mathematically. We're not actually totally We aren't relegated yet. Use a lovely word. Mark, the comment on the screen there, Mark Pontin, the comment from Mark Pritchard, it's time for Vincent Tan to admit it. He got it terribly wrong and put someone on the board who knows how to successfully run a football club is not a bad opening gambit for you, Mark, to respond to.
Well, there's so many mistakes that Vincent Tan has made since he had this club. You can go way back to when he was telling David Marshall to shoot, changing us to our red kit. And it's just mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. Now, you'd think someone who's trying to recoup an investment would start to get some realization that it's only going to go one way because of mistakes that are. I mean, how is this guy a successful leisure tourism business? I don't know, but I was thinking the other day. You look at some of his decisions solely, like the pursuit of Nantes over the Salah case that gave us two transfer window embargoes. Was that the time we had to get all those players in, Steve Morrison, journeyman players, and on long contracts? I mean, this relegation hasn't been coming. It's been coming for years. We haven't had a striker since Kiefer Moore left. Kiefer Moore left, what, 2020, 2021, 2020? Look at the strikers we've had since then. Connor Wickham, Hugel, all these players. Where are they now? Nowhere. Where are a lot of the midfielders like Romain Sawyers and people like that we paid thousands of pounds a week for? Where are they now? League One at best, It's just mistake after mistake after mistake. And I think, the guy should hold hands up and try and sell the club. I mean, look at the guy at Sheffield Wednesday trying to sell, we're arguably a bigger club than Sheffield Wednesday. I think that it's down to him and his board. It really is. I mean, the play, let's be honest, we've got rose-tinted glasses. The team we got now is terrible. It's I mean, just would any one of the players we've got on the pitch today get in the promotion team we had with Warnock? No. I know Rawls was in that team, but I Rawls today now, no. So we've just been going backwards for years and years, and the biggest worry is that we go down, and unlike Birmingham, who spent a fortune, and Wrexham, who were spending a fortune, we don't spend any money. They're already talking about, well, we're going to have to cut costs and we're going to have to let players go, and some of them have got relegation clauses in their contract. Well, that doesn't sound like optimism to me, does it? And whilst I appreciate Jeff's optimism, we're not going to beat both those teams, I don't think. And if we do, we got to rely on everyone else losing. So it's you just gotta prepare for the worst, haven't you? It's very depressing, but it's been coming for years, not just this season. I mean, Omar Rizza shouldn't be given the job. Look how long they took to appoint him. We could have had Mark Robbins. We could have had Mark Robbins, who's okay. They got hammered today, but he's a proven manager. He's kept hooked up by the looks of it. We could have had several managers that were on the market then. We'll go for the easy option. And I fear for Ramsey. What an introduction to management to be relegated in your first 3 games in charge. If they give it to him next year, it's a baptism of fire. He's not going to get supported financially unless some miracle happens with Tan and he starts thinking, well, I need to pay out here. I can't see that happening. Ramsey again is cheaper option. He's not a proven manager, and he's one of our own. He shouldn't be put in this position, next season.
So Gary, the comment on there from Paul, players have to be called out in all the games he didn't turn up for today. No player stopped, which is true. But, we were plenty of effort there. They ran, they chased. It was a performance that was needed months ago. But Gary, which is a fair point, I think that's a fair point. And like Steve said, we did look a bit better today. What did you think of the kind of starting 11 that Aaron went for his first home game at Cardiff, and the kind of formation and the tactics and the way it was approached? Did you see any kind of massive differences from before?
Well, I was quite surprised that Willock started, to be honest. But by his standards, because he's been a major disappointment, as I said off air.
Yeah,
But by his standards, he didn't do too badly today, did he? He actually
better game,
put in a good cross for the goal. And
yeah,
much again, I agree with Mark to an extent. You know, we've been fed this all season now about this is a quality squad. This is a good squad. You know, they should be nowhere near the bottom and all that. And I think the whole situation this season, I think has proved that to be totally wrong. You know, you're as good as your league position, but I don't think the players are anywhere near as good as. You know, we made some poor signings. Today's game apart, Willock's been a massive disappointment. El Ghazi, you know my opinion of El Ghazi.
may never see him again. I don't think.
Oh God, well, I can't come soon enough. I'd like to have not seen him after Christmas, Steve, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
Because like Wiggy said at that game at Oxford, what a gutless performance by the whole team, him included. You know, there's too much wrong with this guy. Like Mark said, it took him 73 days to decide Risa was going to be the manager. And he should never have been given the job in the first place. And I think his comments this last week about fans being clueless, and then he apologised because he probably had to and was told to. And then that journalist interview after the Sheffield game saying, "What do you want me to do?" And he said, "Well, I don't know, I'm the Cardiff manager." You know, it just summed him up, and he's just unravelled in front of us. You know, he's just not. You know, there were good managers out there months and months and months ago, and to give anybody a realistic chance, they should have pulled the plug on the guy months ago, you know, with 15, 20 games left. You know, not, I mean, only at Cardiff City with 3 games left after virtually resigning ourselves to relegation. Because to be fair, after the Sheffield game, I knew we weren't getting anything in there. And I really don't think that there was, you know, if you're honest to yourself, you're thinking, we're going down now, aren't we? You know, after, you know, and I think it might not be mathematically, but can you see us getting another win this season? Because I think there's every chance we could finish rock bottom, to be honest. And I did after the Sheffield game. And that day Plymouth got it. I thought we could probably finish the season at the bottom of the league. I don't think, you know, I mean, it's just, you know, it's depressing, but I mean,
yeah,
you could see this coming months. Like Mark said, this has been coming for years and years. We got out of jail the year that Reading had 6 points.
Yeah, we did.
We would have gone down that year.
Yeah,
and then we got out of it last year, and then this year it's just been, and the home form has been appalling. It's just been a depressing season, unfortunately.
We were talking before the game. I'm pretty sure I'm right. I think it's right. I think it's 1 win in 10 for us. Yeah. And if you look at the league table, then we're the only side in the division who hasn't got a win in the last 6. You know, so and then you see teams like I got some family friends, and they're Portsmouth fans. I mean, they're ecstatic. You know, you see Portsmouth, you see Oxford, you see Plymouth, and these other clubs around us. And in those 10 games, by the way, that includes Luton, Stoke, QPR, Preston, and Oxford, right? You know, and if you can't beat those teams around you, but then those teams like Portsmouth went away and scored 5, you know, and then today, how can and this is a question which you sort of a rose-tinted spectacles. You know, we're not a tiny little club. You know, we're not a tiny little club, and we have had some success, quite significant success in the last sort of 5 to 10 years. Yeah. But then how can what we would perceive as smaller clubs, how can they pull off these results? How did they all win today? How is it Cardiff City who didn't, you know?
More bottle, better managers.
It's about character, Gary, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I said months ago, Steve, I didn't believe we had enough real battlers in the squad to drag us up out of, you know. Unfortunately, we're signing boys like Will Alves, a 19-year-old kid who's hardly played football league much, and we're asking him to come down into a poor side and dig us out of a relegation scrap. We've got no leaders on the pitch. We've got nobody there as a captain who's rallying the troops. And you look at the other teams and they're battlers. They, you know, And
absolutely.
simple as that, in my opinion.
Plymouth is a good example of that. Steve, actually, aren't they? Yeah, Steve Wiggy. They got some proper, hard men in there, and they battle away, and we just don't seem to do that,
Which is what we haven't got, Steve, and that's probably the bulk of our problem is we got no one who wants to put a foot in. If you look at a lot of the 50-50 challenges, no one wants to know. And if you haven't got people willing to put a tackle in, Perry, I'll take Perry. Perry did okay today and put in some crunching tackles, and he does get stuck in, but Perry NG accepted. I don't think I can name anyone there who when the ball's 50-50, Robertson today and Turnbull and a couple of times they just back out of challenges, whereas these teams, as you said, for Pompey to go away and pop 5 goals in, that smacks of a team that desperately wanted to stay up, and there's no star names in that team really. I mean, Josh Murphy accepted, who didn't strike a light down here, but they're a team of, as Gary said, of battlers, and they're all working for each other. No one wants to go down, but it looks like with our lot, perhaps they've got clauses in their contracts that that they can get out through the trap door, and it's not going to affect them in League One.
Well, the other thing with Portsmouth, for example, Steve, is I think they had one of the lowest playing budgets in the league as well.
Yeah.
Does that come back to the fact that we've probably, well, almost definitely wasted a lot of money, actually, as well as anything else.
We've been paying out big money. I think we're one of the biggest payers. I don't know if Mark knows anymore, but I think we're one of the biggest payers for wages in the division or close on. And you look at the likes of, I'd imagine some of the Luton boys coming down from the Premier would be on sizable wages, but the Plymouth boys and teams like Hull, there's no way they'd be on the wage bill we've got.
No. Not Oxford, I would have thought. Not Oxford.
No, Oxford certainly not. I mean, look at Kieran Brown, Joe Bennett, Will Volks, and Mark Harris. And they were kind of Cardiff City rejects, effectively.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said about Luton, Steve. In the last game that I watched one of their games, just have a look, and. There was one gentleman who stood out above all the others and was an absolute colossus, and that was Mark McGuinness. And somebody I know quite well, a very long-term City fan. He made the point of when we sold Mark McGuinness because we got a few mil for him, right? But look at us now, and the money that we got for him, we could have maybe used some of that money to bring in a really good manager.
Yeah, absolutely. But look at the way he was putting his body on the line, Steve, in that game. I watched that game as well.
In that match he's huge.
And that's something we don't seem to have. And it's ultimately, by selling McGuinness, it's probably cost us. Whether he probably would have made a difference in the back, because let's face it, we never looked like keeping a clean sheet, did we? And I know that was a bit of a worldly goal.
We did today, really. We did today, didn't we? Apart from that,
Ironically, perhaps we could have closed down that free kick a little bit better. It was it was left to Alves to try and charge it down. There was no one there ready. I mean, I don't think anybody thought that he was going to shoot from 30+ yards, but he did.
Finish,
and the
Buchanan goal, that was.
The ball was still rising when it hit the back of the net. It's just
fantastic.
They either go out the ground or they go in the top corner, don't they? And it's just unfortunate that they went in the top corner. But I said to my son, they're going to score. Yeah. And when you saw all the results coming through, and Luton and then Pompey are winning, and you thought, it's bound to come.
But Mark, even if we had hung on, actually, we'd still, even if we'd hung on and got a 1-0, which would have been great, it would have been nice. Because all the other results went against us today, Mark, actually we would still have been bottom, but we would have been a little bit close. Oxford would still be within reach. We look at it now, there's only, I think, Hull and Derby technically, because of our goal difference. We don't have any chance really of catching. But I was going to ask Steve as well. I'll ask you, Mark, because I banged on about this all season. I must say I was a bit disappointed when Tanner came on, and again he's playing down the right, and then Alves is playing down the left. And I know, I'm an old geezer, sorry and all that, but to me, it's just when we're in the position that we're in, put the player on his best foot on that wing, let him get to the byline, like even Stoke were doing against us. Let him get the ball in the box, and then maybe get some shots on target. You never know; one of those might hit the back of the net. It just seems to be absolutely ridiculous bringing those players on and still going down that inverted wingers thing. Look at us, look at the goals we scored this season, which is we got to be amongst the worst. And we don't create chances, do we? We created the one chance, well taken goal, great. What else did we really create? We had the shot for Willock early on, I think. That's about it.
Yeah.
Well, you could also say, why don't they put Bagan at left back and push Callum?
Absolutely, 1,000,000%. Said that every week.
Yeah, spot on. It surprised me today, actually. Yeah.
I we started with Bagan today.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think that the player's confidence is completely shattered. If you were Darling coming into this club, right? You played pretty well the first few games, then you got injured, then you came back into the fold, and you made a few mistakes, so you were dropped, and then the centre back pairing you had then was changed all over the place. Gutas, Darling, Gutas, Chambers, Bagan, Gutas. I mean, if you were continually dropped from your position, you'd think, well, is it me? Or you get angry. Now you can push that all over the pitch. The last game, he starts with two wingers, then he takes them off. This game, start with two wingers, and they take them off. So they're obviously admitting this is not working with our two wide men here. It's not working. So we need to change them both. And a lot of this is happening at half time as well in these games, So players like Tanner, yes, he's been injured, but he's still pretty young. He needs the confidence. He needs a coach to put his arm around him. I mean, there's two types of coaches. There's a man management coach to build a team out of even out of the players we got, like a Warnock or someone like that. And then there's a coach that's got the money to buy a team. Both of them results in it being a team. We don't have a team. It's what we've got is a collection of players that are directionless and as clueless. Let's be honest, as the owner and the board, because that's where they're playing in the image of the people who own this club, which is directionless, clueless. It's amplified and it's put out on the field. There isn't a player there that seems to know what they're doing. I feel for Alves and I feel for Manswerk to come to a club like and they just want to make an impression and they want to go back to their home clubs and they want to get in the squads.
You're all right today, Manswerk, I thought, actually.
Yeah, I mean he's a quality player. He will be a quality player, But I just think that they've made the wrong decisions, like I said before, and even with this team, you could mold a team out of it somehow if you were that way inclined. I don't think Ramsey, God bless him, is ready to do that. He needs a few more years of experience, but they messed up. It happened, and he messed up in Belgium with the team there as well. And it won't be long. I think they're going to go down this as well. And he shouldn't be involved in football. I'm sorry. Vanity project for him. Vanity project.
Yeah. Okay. So Gary, again, going back to the way we lined up, a couple of things he did today. I know it's like we're looking at the dregs of a coffee cup kind of thing now. But I mean, I think, but put in, for example, Reno into midfield, which I would also have done, by the way, where because he's a midfielder, right? So that was good. And then Willock in the centre looked more central, looked better than he did out wide, and he was more involved. I suppose he played more like a number 10, really, a part of the game. So there were signs of that, but I think the Joel Bagan thing really surprises me. I don't know what Joel's done wrong, really, not to be in there. And you can't expect Callum O'Dowda just to run 100 yards back and forth every time to get the ball in the box, and he's the best left-footed crosser of ball that we got at the club. Yeah. So I was a little bit surprised, but then after the game, Aaron said he enjoyed it. You know, he enjoyed the experience. I thought the atmosphere in the ground was quite good. People were ready to get behind him, aren't we? You know,
Yeah.
and Joe
Yeah.
and Chris, of course. But it's like too little, too late altogether, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose that was the one big thing. He played Willock in more of a floating role, where the reset
Yeah,
when
he did.
Willock,
Yeah,
they always stuck him out
yeah.
on the wing, and he ain't got the pace to go either way, is he? So,
Yeah.
But and I thought Ashford was a bit disappointing today. Really, he had that one chance in the second half where I think it was Robertson. He broke, didn't he? And he tried to take the guy on instead of threading the ball. I think it was Robertson was Sorry, he was running in. He's in the box when he, running in, and I thought he was poor today. And but they got I suppose he got a bit more. But what did we expect? I mean, like it's announced on. He literally probably had one training session with the players, if that. It just smacks of everything that's been wrong with the club for years now, isn't it?
Yeah.
No plan, no, no. It's just winging it all the time, and it beggars belief that we've said this a million times. It beggars belief that. Tan's over there seeing his investment it's going to be the value of the club's going to go right down the pan, isn't it? And everything that involves. We were saying today, it's not just that. We got promising. It looks like we got some promising players in the academy, but they've been picked off by bigger clubs before. And if we suddenly become a League One side next year, the under-19s and the under-21s, there's going to be. I heard there's rumours of clubs interested in Dylan Lawler now.
He's going to be a hell of a player. He is.
They have a look at him. They probably think he's a promising kid, just like Charlie Crew, just like Rabi Matondo, just like Banchieri, just like the goalkeeper we lost to people. It's a downward spiral. And I don't know when they said about relegation. Clauses, whether that means I don't think that's a wages cut, is it? They probably, like you said, there's probably a few of them thinking, I'm not playing League One football. They probably wanted, I mean, will Chambers want to do that? Will Robertson want to do that? Will Fish, Salek even, he probably has been a success, isn't he? In all fairness to the bloke, he scored 6-7 goals now, in a poor side.
Yeah.
And the one good cross we got in him today, he buried it. Yeah. Again, he was battling because that centre half, they were just, every time they just giving him a clatter, weren't they? So
there was actually, which leads me on to Gary about that challenge from, I think you pronounce it Plaheta.
Yeah. Well, they took him off at half time, didn't they? So they knew what was
coming. For me, that was a red.
Yeah, it was poor. It was a poor challenge, Steve. But then again.
And he was involved earlier on. He didn't get booked.
Yeah. Refereeing again. Really, I don't think we've had many homers. I don't suppose he made any massive decisions, and he didn't give anything that was, it was just. But like we said for weeks and weeks now, this has been coming for a long, long time.
Yeah.
This is a season. It's finally got us, isn't it? And like somebody said last week, the club are getting what they deserve. He said the only people who don't get what they deserve in this case is the supporters.
Yeah, absolutely.
The supporters are the ones that got to swallow this.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We've been banging our head against the wall. You can see it's been going on for months now, and we're going to end up seeing First Division football next season through no fault of our own, because we've supported this club really well this year. There's no been calls until the Sheffield United game away.
Yeah,
they backed Risa when it's been some pretty appalling football and appalling results. And I think, as Ramsey said in his statement this week, the fans have been very patient and they've stayed right behind them. He knows he's been looking on. He's an experienced player who played some big clubs, and even looking on, although he hasn't contributed on the field himself, he's probably thinking behind the scenes, he's looking on, seeing what's going on and thinking, this is, like we all know, it's become a circus, unfortunately, and we're going to pay for it next year. And unfortunately, the supporters will pay for it more than most.
Well, I said on the show that the Blues are staying up. I was fairly. I thought I'd go with keep the faith and all that. But it was actually still not down. Just to say that. But the comment there from Holton, Steve, BT and the board sent us down. I mean, so going back to the Sheffield United game, right? So what Gary just said. So our fans who travel the length and breadth of the country, all football clubs do it, but we have amazing fans. We have an amazing fan base, right? And they put up with a hell of a lot, and then they'd had enough, and they made their views clear. So Vincent Tan apparently is watching these games, so that was probably. Do you think that was the result of that? Do you think it was a final straw? Or how much do you think the part of the fans would have played, Steve, in Vincent Tan finally making the decision, because he was very, very loyal to Oma, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think it did, Steve. The other thing that I mentioned is the comment from Mark Poyser, who I work with at Real, the BBC reporter. When he said, "How are you going to change things? How are you going to score a goal?" And Riz's comment of "You tell me" was probably one of the final nails in the coffin. But I mean, you're right with the fans, Steve. They travel everywhere, and we were told, if you think back to the start of the season, the expectations to Mr. Dalman were to be in and around the playoffs. And look, I mean, there was no sign of us being in or around the playoffs at Christmas. So surely, if you're looking at that after making that comment, then you should be, realistically looking at what's gone wrong and changing the management then. So giving someone the opportunity and chance to push us towards the playoffs, not down. We had umpteen opportunities to change the manager, didn't we? And the board.
Why did we take so? Why did we? Do you think, Steve? Why did we have that kind of 70-day hiatus before deciding to keep?
Because it's a clown show down there, isn't it? It's a clown show.
It's absolutely crazy, isn't it? It's whether it's. I don't know. There's so many different stories coming out. Whether it's Dalman saying we should do this, and Chu going along with him, and then Tan vetoing it all, saying no, it's my club, and perhaps there's a bit of that going on. But the worst thing for us as fans is we're kept in the dark all the time, aren't we? I mean, there's never any voice coming out from the club about what's going on. Even those 72 days, we were. I mean, I was convinced that they were trying to strike a deal with someone else. It was beyond belief when they eventually appointed Richard, wasn't it? I mean, to me, it looked like they were talking to someone from the outside, and perhaps they couldn't get it over the line, or perhaps they were arguing over money, and then lo and behold, they appoint him as manager. It was a crazy decision, and as we said, there's been mistakes all the way through. You can chase it back to last year when we should have gone down, and Reading saved our bacon, and the red light should have been flashing loud and proud then. And they haven't been from their mistakes, Steve. That's the problem.
No, well, so we got some breaking news, which I'm gonna go to now. So we made the decision to get rid of our manager with 3 games to go, but West Brom have now got rid of Tony Mowbray. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Just happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So and they're still in with a chance of the playoffs with 2 games to go. So maybe it's not only us, you really spilt your water, this, didn't you? So yeah, it's a shock. It's a bit of a shocker, isn't
it? Unbelievable. And the poor bloke haven't been well as well, and he's come in obviously. And I mean they're still in and around knocking. I mean, okay, I haven't seen their game today, obviously, but they lost a derby, but they're still in and around the playoffs. Still an outside chance they could get in there. Well, so you haven't done bad. So we know. You'll be lucky, Jeff.
Yeah.
I want to ask. I'll ask Mark this one, right? You said about Tony Mowbray, because obviously he did have some serious health issues. So football, right? Running a football club, Mark, and I'm genuinely asking you this now, yeah. Running a football club, it is very stressful. Look at that, Tony Mowbray. It's very stressful. It's very precarious. It's very insecure, right? So I'm going to ask you a 2-part question, Mark, right? The first part of it is, do you feel any sympathy at all for Oma Rizza, because he did look absolutely stressed out of his brains. As I think he wasn't looking very well, and also he lost his dad earlier this year and everything else. And secondly, the second part of it is, to turn that on its head, I suppose. Instead, would you be more a case of criticizing the hierarchy for putting somebody in that position?
I'm going to give Omer some respect to say that it apparently Yusuf Salek was his choice, because I think Yusuf Salek is a good striker by the looks of it, and I think especially in League One he could be a good asset. So there's my positivity for Omer, but the blame lays with the board, because they put him in that position. The poor guy was out of his depth, and by the end of it, mentally he was suffering.
He didn't look good, did he? He really didn't look good.
I mean, he was scared to speak in the press
conference.
Yeah,
everything's coming back to bite him on it.
He knew that anything he said, and he did say some stupid things, but he came across really well for most of the part as well. But he should never have been put in that position. Now, he was brought in under Errol Bullitt as an attack-minded coach. Now, we got to remember that the way we appointed Errol Bullitt was he was Dalman's guy, and Dalman was vouched for him. Now, how many football clubs has Dalman worked at before he came?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, if it was Neil Warnock saying, I think you should appoint, Errol Bullitt, or Wenger saying, or Alex Ferguson, you go, oh, this guy's got to be. But Dalman telling us that Errol Bullitt is the way to go. And then, of course, they bring Rizza in as a coach. And that's what he is. He's a coach. Like Steve Morrison is a coach. Like Mark Hudson, unfortunately, was just a coach. And we just try to go about things in an economical way, which is backfiring all the time. I mean, they've just sacked Rizza, Ramazan, Darren Pearce. They're all gone. Yeah, they're all gone. So they're all entitled to whatever compensation, because some of them may not have had contracts at the end of the season. Some of them may have had longer contracts. So where's the common sense in spending all that money on paying Errol Bullitt, paying Rizza, paying all the staff that's sacked with Errol Bullitt, on all these things, but then getting in and paying him thousands of pounds a week to play? There's nobody that's an idea at all of how to turn this around within the upper hierarchy of this club. And unfortunately, he's not going to sack Chew. He's not going to sack Dalman, because he seems to be convinced that they're the way to go. And when's it going to end? We could be.
Well, he might now. I mean, if we go down, he might. Mark, if we go down, he might, because
200 million for the club.
Yeah, but no, I mean, if we go down, right, which looks very likely, if we do, Vincent Tan, surely that is, you think surely something as seismic as that, he'd make a change at the hierarchy of the club, wouldn't he?
Do you really think so?
Well, anyone else would. I know. Not anyone else would. If you're he's putting the money in. He's got these people running the shop.
This is a man.
They're not doing it. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, but it's also his money, Mark.
When I go and sit in an Indian stand under those red seats, right?
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm not sitting in the grandstand looking at them.
Yeah, no, I get that.
The red seat. No offense here. I'm not going to mince my words anymore. He's got. My uncle would smack him in the face. I'm telling you, he would. That's why he left with Len Asher. You know what I mean? This guy is. I appreciate he's a billionaire. We all giving him loads of respect because he's a billionaire. Well, Birmingham found a good billionaire. Bournemouth found a good billionaire. And now, arguably, Birmingham perhaps are on our level or bigger, but Bournemouth certainly aren't as big a club as Cardiff. Look at them.
No.
So we were very unlucky. We were kind of desperate at the time to get out of the situation we were in. We had there was a pattern of wealthy investors in British football, and we jumped on the bandwagon. Ridsdale organised it, or whatever it was at the time. We were unlucky. We got the wrong billionaire. It's before we got the wrong billionaire, and we got a guy that he's clueless. And what that word is now aimed at him, not the fans. The fans know we're not clueless. We're sitting here watching it. I'm trying not to swear. I tell you what.
No, you're doing a good job of not swearing. So, Gary, just I mean, this goes out on community radio stations, So we I mean, obviously we're all emotional people, but but Gary, the point that I made to Mark, and maybe we're still ahead of the game here, but we're getting into the inquest kind of side of things with this now. Vincent Tan, for all his errors and for all his mistakes, right, has come from him into the club. He's put these people, because he's never here, to run the club. It looks like they're making at least, shall we say, a pig's ear of it. Surely at some point, if you're investing in a business which appears to be appallingly run, don't you go to the top?
Yeah, but it's been appallingly run for the last 5 years, Steve.
But the epitome of it is what's happening right now, isn't it?
What's happening right now, but that's where you end up when something is as badly run as our football club has been for 5 years.
Yeah.
Since we come down from the Premier League, it's got progressively worse year on year on year. We've thrown money, we've absolutely frittered money away. Well, his money, I mean, isn't Dalman in for 30 million now? Isn't he got a loan with the club? And like Mark said, it's what football knowledge has he got, really, honestly, to be a chief exec of Dalman's, like Tan's right man here. He's only really appointed 2 managers. Ollie Solskjaer was his first one. That didn't go well, did it? And then he really
had a nice red shirt though, didn't he?
Yeah, and then he fought to keep Bullet, didn't he? Because we finished last season, a shambles. But we kept him on, and we were thinking, well, we stayed up comfortably last year, and he fought like hell, didn't he? Because that was a farce as well. It was will he, won't he? Give him a job. The season finished in May, and it was 2 months before Bullet got that 2-year contract, wasn't it? Yeah. It was well into the pre-season, and then it was shambolic, and then he was handed over. And I mean, the worry is, he doesn't make any logical decisions. If he hasn't made logical decisions for 5 years, we're going to get relegated. Well, we're as good as down. I thought we were down after a couple of games ago, to be honest. But then when we go down to League One, you need a real structure and something to. There's no way we're coming straight back. Not the current situation as I see it. Because if Ramsey doesn't stay, your first thing you think of is who is going to be our manager next year. So
can I ask you a question on that then, Gary? Right? It's hypothetical. We can go with hypotheticals, can we? Now, middle of April. So if it seems likely we go down, it's a totally different scenario, isn't it? Bringing in a former Cardiff City legend with another club captain with him and a former City player who's the Welsh thing and all the rest of it for 3 games when you're kind of a shot to nothing sort of thing, as opposed to putting somebody like that in charge of the club if they would go down for the push back to the Championship. So do you have any thoughts on that? If what was the case in terms of Aaron Ramsey's only had 1 game, I just mean the idea of Aaron Ramsey being, it'd still be player coach. I mean, he's obviously had a lot of fitness issues, but he hopefully he'll get fit and play some games. What would be your thoughts on that, Gary?
Do you really see him wanting to take on the job full time under this regime? I think he's been at some big clubs working under big managers, and this is a billion miles away from that. Yeah. I mean, he could be, nobody's gonna, we were right behind today. Probably if we'd end up losing today, there wouldn't have been any, it was just, I think it was almost a relief when Risa got the sack. We thought, well, okay, but I can't see him wanting to take on I really can't see us wanting to take on a club that's just been relegated and all that implies, and he knows exactly how the club's set up. What guarantees is he going to get that it's going to be any better? He's going to be managing a shambolic club in a lower division. I think that really is a poison chalice for him. Really.
Were you surprised? Were you surprised that he took it on, Gary?
Not really. It's almost this. We don't know what's gone behind the scenes, does he? Because he swept all the. The only person who were on the coaching staff who stayed there was Gavin Ward, wasn't it? Chris Gunter arrived from Norway. Thought, blimey, ex-player. Bloxham stepped up from the under-21s, and then you got the other one that came with Gunter, didn't you? So it's a whole new back. I think he probably said, "Well, I'll take it over, but I want these." He wanted nothing to do with the previous coaching staff, did he? So where's the guarantees for Aaron Ramsey now next year? If he said, "Okay, I'll be your manager" or whatever, I still think he's got. I still think he wants to stay playing because there's that World Cup dangling and thing.
Yeah.
But then, how are you gonna give his injury record of the last 2 years? Are Cardiff City going to give Aaron Ramsey another year's playing contract? And there's a complication, isn't it? So they could say, well, we'd like you to be play him, but I can't see that. It's a shambles. I just don't see any end to this farce, really. Because the people we got people at the top are clueless, and going down is a harder league. Physically, I mean, there's some
even harder.
Some of these players, he's going to be in for a shock. I think. I mean, it's no light at the end of the tunnel now, Steve, at the moment anyway, unless some knight in shining armor comes riding over the horizon. I don't know.
Well, talking of knights in shining armor, there was a rumor by a guy who at one time had an association with the show, and I'll put this on the screen briefly. So there's a rumor of a certain person, maybe with an investment, but that is just literally kind of paper talk, if you like, really. Steve, would it make any? I suppose the only part of that rumor which would make sense to me would be the fact that if VT was to find someone else, it would be likely to be someone that he might have some sort of connection with, maybe someone in the same neck of the woods sort of thing. I mean, maybe there's maybe he knows, maybe he goes down the pub with a few billionaires.
Do you want to buy a second-hand football club, mate? Does it?
Yeah, that's a possibility, Steve. But I think that the name alone, I'm not sure about.
The name is not flawless, really.
Yeah,
I think someone's having to laugh somewhere. But regardless of if we desperately need someone we need a footballing brain up at the top, don't we? And certainly if we go down to League One, which I've seen some of the comments coming in, we can still get out, yes, but we've got to win games and we've got to score goals. And I honestly don't think we're going to do that personally. But if we do go down, then we're going to need, I think, a proven champion, a proven League One manager, or someone who's been down around that area to take us forward. I personally, I don't think Ramsey would take on that challenge. I don't think he'd want to start there, like Gary said. I think he's still taking his coaching badges. He's not quite ready at the moment, and I think to start with something like that in the current predicament and where we are, I think he'd be foolish to do that. And as Gary also alluded to, he's also probably got one eye on featuring somewhere with Wales in next year's World Cup. So I very much doubt whether he'd take that role on. But you're right about the Steve. But I think it's a bit of a red herring. I really do.
I don't know. Do they eat red herrings in that part of the world? I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'm not sure. But there's a comment here from Michael Whoops. I'm not sure about this one actually. Mark, maybe you might know. I thought Ramsey had another year actually. Isn't Ramsey's playing contract at the end?
Yeah, it is. I think.
But
all right. Okay.
He's got an option for another year. The club can take
an option, right?
Yeah. But here's a bit of a controversial statement. But as a business, right? If we end up going down to League One and Ramsey doesn't want to be the manager, is it a good business sense to give him that other year? Because how many tens of thousands of pounds a week is he on compared to the rest of the squad? And if he's only going to play 6 to 10 games, I know he's an influence in the dressing room, but in League One, we're not going to be getting 14 to 16,000. We're not. We're going to be getting 10,000. The season tickets go down. They can't expect to charge 34 quid to play, Barnsley or wherever's in League One. I don't follow League One very much, but it's not going to be Birmingham. It's probably not going to be Wrexham, is it? It's going. So they might have to lower the ticket prices. So it doesn't make economic sense to keep Ramsey on. It makes economic sense to let him go and use that money to get 2 or 3 other players in, because Gutas is going to go. He's not going to. He's not going to sign again. So we're weak in central defence unless we keep hold of Lawler and he gets in there and he has a good run.
Yeah,
we need midfield backup, because Rawls is an injury prone player as well.
Yeah.
You know, we've got some deadwood players there as well, and we got some that are going to get poached because they've got relegation clauses, which means if a bid comes in for it, it's got to be accepted if it's a reasonable bid. So it doesn't make economic sense to keep him on as a player, and I think the argument to say that perhaps he needs to start realizing that his playing days are they're 95% finished. Let's be honest. He can't. He's too fragile, and he's playing on League One pitches. Look what happened to him when he played against Montenegro. I watched that game on the pitch. I thought he has got hope in hell of loss in his game, and he didn't. So he's going to be going to some real, all due respect to him, but the pitches are going to be a lot worse, So
I can see him in a coaching role, Mark. I can see him. I keep him there in some sort of capacity. Not necessarily in management, but maybe on the coaching staff. That would make more sense.
But a comment just popped up there. Something like Gunter will be our manager. Well, they've already set the stall out for Ramsey with Gunter as an assistant. So Gunter never have here as assistant by the looks of it, because they haven't set the stall out that way. I just think we need a manager. We need someone who's done it before. We're, instead of spending millions of pounds trying to sue the football club for Salah's tragedy, we should spend a bit more money and get a decent manager in, someone who can mold the team, someone who goes out on the field on the first day of training, looks at them running around and thinks, right, I know where I'm going to set this team up. Because we haven't had that for years. We looked at that squad of players and thought, his assets that. They just try to, we all play 4-2-3-1. Everyone does that now. We need a proper manager, we do.
Yeah. The last time we had a manager, like probably Neil Harris was the last time we played decent football, wasn't it? For a little while. And we had better
in
players.
The COVID season.
We had Harry Wilson and Kiefer Moore, who scored 20 goals last season playing for Set. It's a million miles away from what we got now, isn't it? Better players in the team anyway. So it's a big ask. Whoever comes in, it's a big ask, isn't it? Yeah.
Steve, we haven't got much time, but the Sheffield United game, you could argue maybe we weren't, sorry, this sounds really pathetically kind of almost trying to be positive, but we weren't really that terrible. First half, we defended well, and it was an unlucky goal that we conceded, really, and then of course Kiefer was involved in the second one. I thought we might actually get a result up there because they'd lost 3 in a row. But I know I'm clutching at straws. But are there any signs at all? Maybe today we did show a bit more fight about us, I thought, and we had some good moments. Are there any signs of anything at all for like Aaron to build on for the last couple of games?
Well, I mean, we did okay at Sheffield, Steve. Let's be honest. But again, it's the lack of threat on the goals. I mean, unless you buy a ticket, you do win the raffle. And we're not shooting enough. I see our midfield. We mentioned the name there, Harry Wilson. He was a midfielder who scored us loads of goals. He was a midfielder. He was a midfielder that got beyond the attack and got to the byline, put balls in the box. And they're all the things that we're not doing now. Our midfield, Mansworth did okay today to a certain degree, but they seem to come within the lines of the 18-yard box, and then they freeze, turn round, and go that way. Then go backwards. It's almost as if everyone's. I know there's a lack of confidence, obviously, but the players are trying to walk the ball in the net as opposed to getting shots away. And if you take a shot, it goes in off someone's backside. Who cares? But at least you tested the keeper. And again today, apart from Salek's header, we barely tested their keeper. And listen, that's the reason we're not winning games. But we're doing okay. But we're huffing and puffing, but we're not blowing the defence out, are we?
Yeah, that's a good, very, very nicely put. The nice little 3 little pigs analogy there from Steve. So we got the West Brom game coming up, right? And that so Mark, that's quite interesting, isn't it? Again, actually just very briefly, today I had a really good friend stay over last night. He lives in America. He's come over for the weekend, and he's a rugby fan, right? So I tried to explain him. I tried to explain Cardiff City Football Club to him. Like it's almost like it's a non-stop kind of urban myth, really. Kind of all these things happen, and now West Brom, right? So Tony Mowbray, they've got rid of him just before we play them, and the notorious manager bounce and all the rest of it. It's kind of anything that can happen to us. What are your thoughts about the West Brom game? Do you think we can get a result there? And if you were Aaron, would you set up any differently? I suppose is another question.
I think both of the last games are winnable, but I think that what Ramsey said in his interview over the weekend, which he said, "I want us to play on the front foot and I want us to play high energy." We haven't done really. We were a little bit better today, but we got to go at them. We got to go at them, and I mean we've got a load of players with low morale and low confidence. They're making so many individual errors. The Sheffield United Renamote mistake for the goal. It's there's so many errors that we're making, and all over the pitch is errors. So he's got to really fire them up. He's got to.
Having said that, Mark, sorry, just to interrupt you. Just having said that, for me, probably Reno's probably our player of the season, and the most improved player actually, and being played out of position most of the time. But he did make that error.
Yeah, I think that. With all due respect to him, I think he's the player that plays with a lot of. He puts his body on the line and he tries hard, but he lacks a lot of finesse. He lacks a lot of tech, and he is lower Championship League One player at best. No disrespect to him, he has really done well, but he wouldn't get in any of the top.
So 6. If we go down, he'd be all right, wouldn't he?
Well, yeah. I mean, he'd be the sort of. I mean, he's out of contract as well. I think.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and there's no.
I think if Ramsey can get us in the spirit of the Euros team, the 2015, the way we play, which he was part of, I think that he needs to install a passion and a desire, because at the moment no one knows what to do. No one knows what they're doing. They're all scared to death of making a mistake, and then they end up making a mistake.
Yeah,
woeful. They don't know. Every throw in, there didn't seem to anybody who wants to take the ball.
Set piece is awful. Set piece is awful.
Yeah,
another one today.
He needs to really give them some belief.
Yeah. He wasn't that animated. He didn't appear to be that animated on the touchline today. You didn't see him driving him on. Maybe that's just Aaron. Maybe that's his personality. But we'll have to see how that develops, and if it develops, and how long term is going to be. And so so give us a score prediction, Mark, for West Brom.
Well, now hearing that they sacked their coach, I'm going to be cheeky and say we get a 2-1. I think Ramsey with a few more days to work with the squad and to install some belief in them. I think we will have a little bit of a bounce, and we'll get a 2-1. I think. I'm hoping. I'm positive about that.
Well, we got to win eventually,
I'm going to be positive.
Wiggy, score prediction.
It's got to be a 0-0 draw, Steve. That's the best I can hope for. Sorry to deflate you, and we go on to Norwich and beat them 5-0. I can't see us. I mean, as Mark said, the good thing is Aaron's got like 6 days or 5 days now to work with the team and work on September.
Yeah.
He hadn't had the time to do anything, is he? 1 day to work with those boys. So you weren't going to see. I just hope there's a bit of a better press from the front as well. And it was a little bit better today. But when you watch the likes of Pompey, your friend's team, they're in people's faces all the time. Plymouth,
they're a nightmare at home as well. It's a horrible ground to go to.
We need to be in people's faces a bit more from the front.
Yeah. So I agree. And I personally, I hate inverted wingers. I'd have Joel Begin in, but I said that every other week. Maybe I'm just an old geezer. Maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. So for Gary, then the comments on the screen there from Stephen Thomas. It would be helpful if the board and Tan explain what they're thinking and the reasons behind them. So we appreciate we're into the last kind of minute of the show. So I'll go to you last, Gary. Right?
Yeah.
Firstly, we can just very briefly give me a scoreline for West Brom.
I don't think we'll win either of our remaining games, Steve. I don't think we'll win either of them.
Okay.
More likely to lose. I don't think we'll get a win on either of those, and it's quite likely. I think we might finish rock bottom of the league.
All right. So I wish I hadn't asked you now, but I'm
not gonna. After all this clown show's gone on this season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I'm saying it as I think it'll be, and I don't think we'll win either of those games.
Okay, and the final question again, going back to that comment, which I'll just show one more time, and I'll ask you this, Gary, personally now. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could, what would be your message to Tan and the board as a lifelong kind of City fan?
Well,
keep it clean.
Keep it clean, Gary.
I'm stupidly going to renew my season ticket probably because at the moment I got nothing better to do on a Saturday. So, but here we
That's
go.
not very inspirational.
Yeah, but perhaps I shouldn't say that. Perhaps you sell up then and go. But Steve, I don't really know. The man's a total. I just don't understand where he's coming from. No, I'm not going to say that. He just. I just don't know what to think of him.
I think we'll end the show here.
He's just like he's just like over there and we're over here. I mean,
we're just about getting away with it. So we'll listen. Thanks very much for coming on today, and let's just hope for the best with Cardiff City Football Club. Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, lads.